Imagine marrying someone where your wedding gift is a lifetime of surveillance cameras, loyalty tests, and the constant fear that one wrong move could land you in a labor camp. That's the reality waiting for whoever becomes Kim Yo Jong's husband. Before we begin, take a moment, like the video, and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Kim Yo Jong is one of the most powerful women in the world right now. She's the sister of Kim Jong Un, the supreme leader of North Korea, and she's basically his right hand. But here's something nobody really talks about. What happens to the guy who ends up marrying her? Because let me tell you, being Kim Yo Jong's husband isn't some fairy tale royal marriage. It's more like signing up for the most dangerous job on the planet. And today, we're going to break down exactly why that is. So, who is Kim Yo Jong? If you don't know much about her, let me give you the rundown. She was born in 1987, making her around 37 years old now. She's the youngest child of Kim Jong Il, the former leader of North Korea, and she grew up in one of the most secretive and brutal regimes in modern history. But unlike most women in North Korea who have almost zero political power, Kim Yo Jong has risen to become one of the most influential figures in the entire country. She's not just Kim Jong Un's sister. She's his advisor, his spokesperson, his enforcer. When Kim Jong Un needs someone to deliver a threatening message to South Korea or the United States, he sends her. When he needs someone to handle propaganda, she's the one running the show. And when he disappeared from public view back in 2020, people genuinely thought she might take over as the next supreme leader. So yeah, she's powerful, she's untouchable, and she's single. Now, you might think being married to someone that powerful would be amazing. You'd have access to wealth, luxury, protection. You'd be part of one of the most elite families in the world. But here's the thing. In North Korea, power doesn't protect you. It puts a target on your back. Because in the Kim family, loyalty is everything. And if you're married to Kim Yo Jong, you're not just her husband. You're a potential threat. You're someone who could influence her, someone who could leak secrets, someone who could be used against the regime. And in a country where even top generals disappear overnight, that's a terrifying position to be in. So let's break down exactly why being Kim Yo Jong's future husband would be an absolute nightmare. First things first, if you think Kim Yo Jong is going to meet some guy at a coffee shop and fall in love, you're completely wrong. That's not how things work in North Korea. Marriages in the Kim family aren't about love or romance. They're about power, control, and maintaining the bloodline. Kim Jong Un didn't just randomly meet his wife Ri Sol-ju. She was carefully selected. She was a singer in a state-run orchestra, which means she was already vetted, already loyal, already part of the system. And even then, we barely know anything about her. She appears in public sometimes, sure, but her life is still a complete mystery. We don't even know how many kids she has. Now, imagine being the guy chosen to marry Kim Yo Jong. You won't choose her, she won't choose you. The decision will be made by the regime, probably by Kim Jong Un himself. And the criteria won't be whether you're a good match or whether you make her happy. The criteria will be whether you're loyal, whether you can be controlled, and whether you pose zero threat to the regime. So who would they pick? Probably someone from a high-ranking military family, someone whose entire family is already tied to the regime, someone who's been indoctrinated since birth and has zero chance of defecting, someone who's basically a puppet. And here's the kicker. Even if you are that perfect candidate, even if you pass every test, you'll still spend the rest of your life proving you're not a threat. Let's talk about privacy, or rather, the complete lack of it. In North Korea, surveillance is everywhere. The government monitors phone calls, emails, conversations. There are informants in every neighborhood, every workplace, every social circle. Even families spy on each other. Kids are taught to report their parents if they say anything against the regime. Now imagine being married to Kim Yo Jong. You're not just under normal North Korean surveillance. You're under elite-level surveillance. Every single thing you do will be watched. Every conversation you have will be recorded. Every person you meet will be vetted. You won't be able to have a private moment with your own wife, because even in your own home, there will be cameras, microphones, security personnel. You won't be able to express frustration, doubt, or fear, because any sign of disloyalty, any hint that you're not 100% committed to the regime could get you killed. And it's not just you, your family will be monitored too. Your parents, your siblings, your cousins. If any of them step out of line, it reflects on you. And in North Korea, punishment isn't individual, it's collective. If one person in a family does something wrong, the entire family suffers. That's how the regime maintains control. So as Kim Yo Jong's husband, you won't just be responsible for your own actions. You'll be responsible for everyone you've ever known. One mistake from anyone in your circle, and you're done.
Here's the irony. You'll be married to one of the most powerful women in the world, but you'll have zero power yourself. Think about it. Kim Yo Jong's power comes from her brother. She's influential because she's part of the Kim family bloodline. But you're just the guy she married. You're not part of the bloodline. You're an outsider. And in a system as rigid and brutal as North Korea, outsiders are never trusted. You could be the most loyal person in the country, and it wouldn't matter. You'll always be seen as a potential weak point, a potential liability. So what does that mean for your daily life? It means you'll have no say in anything. You won't be involved in political decisions. You won't have access to real information. You'll be kept in the dark, just like everyone else. But here's where it gets worse. Because even though you'll have no power, you'll still be held responsible for everything Kim Yo Jong does. If she makes a decision that backfires, if she says something that angers Kim Jong Un, if she's ever seen as a threat to his leadership, guess who's going to take the fall? You. Because in a dictatorship, the leader is never wrong. So if something goes bad, they need someone to blame, and the easiest target is always the person closest to the problem. In this case, that's you. We've seen this happen before in North Korea. High-ranking officials get executed or sent to labor camps, not because they did anything wrong, but because someone needed to be punished. And as Kim Yo Jong's husband, you'd be the perfect scapegoat. Let's say you're from a relatively normal background before marrying Kim Yo Jong. Maybe you had friends, hobbies, a life. Well, forget all of that. Once you marry into the Kim family, your old life is over. You won't be able to contact your friends. You won't be able to visit your old neighborhood. You'll be moved into a secure compound, surrounded by guards, cut off from everyone you've ever known. And here's the thing. You won't just be isolated from regular North Koreans. You'll be isolated from the outside world, too. No internet, no foreign media, no access to information beyond what the regime wants you to know. Kim Yo Jong herself has traveled internationally. She went to the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea. She's met with foreign dignitaries. But you won't get that privilege, because the regime won't risk you being exposed to outside ideas, outside culture, outside freedom. They'll keep you locked away, living in a bubble, completely dependent on them for everything. Your food, your housing, your safety, your information, all controlled by the regime. And the worst part? You won't even realize how trapped you are, because that's how indoctrination works. They'll convince you that this is normal, that this is how things should be, that you're lucky to be in this position. But deep down, you'll know. You'll feel the walls closing in. You'll sense that something's wrong, but you won't be able to do anything about it. Now, let's talk about kids, because if you marry Kim Yo Jong, you're expected to have children. That's not optional. The regime needs to maintain the Kim bloodline, and that means producing heirs. But here's the thing. Those kids won't really be yours. They'll belong to the regime. From the moment they're born, they'll be raised to serve the state. They'll be trained, indoctrinated, molded into perfect little soldiers for the regime, and you won't have any say in how they're raised. Imagine watching your own child being taught to worship Kim Jong Un like a god. Imagine seeing them being trained to report disloyalty, even if that disloyalty comes from you. Imagine knowing that if you ever step out of line, your own kid might be the one to turn you in. That's the reality of raising children in the Kim family. They're not raised to love their parents. They're raised to love the regime. And here's the darkest part. If anything ever happens to Kim Yo Jong, if she's ever seen as a threat, or if she falls out of favor, your children could be used against her. They could be taken away, used as leverage, or worse. In North Korea, family loyalty means nothing compared to regime loyalty, and your kids will learn that from day one. Let's not dance around this. In North Korea, people get executed all the time. And we're not just talking about random citizens. We're talking about high-ranking officials, people close to the Kim family, people who were once trusted. Kim Jong Un has ordered the execution of his own uncle, Jong Song-thaek, who was once one of the most powerful men in the country. He's executed generals, advisors, diplomats. And these aren't quiet deaths. They're public, brutal, designed to send a message. So as Kim Yo Jong's husband, you'd be living with that reality every single day. One mistake, one perceived betrayal, one moment of weakness, and you could be next. And here's the worst part. You wouldn't even know what you did wrong, because in North Korea, the rules are whatever Kim Jong Un says they are. You could follow every rule, do everything right, and still end up in front of a firing squad because someone decided you were a threat. There's no trial, no defense, no appeal. Just a decision from the top, and that's it. And even if you're not executed, there are worse fates. Labor camps in North Korea are living hell. People are starved, tortured, worked to death. Entire families are sent there, including children. And once you're in, you're not getting out. So every single day, as Kim Yo Jong's husband, you'd wake up knowing that your life is hanging by a thread, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Here's something people don't think about. If you marry Kim Yo Jong, you won't just be her husband, you'll be a propaganda tool for the regime. North Korea is obsessed with image. Everything is about showing the world that the Kim family is perfect, that the country is thriving, that the people are happy. And your marriage would be used to push that narrative. They'd parade you around at state events, show you on TV, use you in propaganda videos. You'd have to smile, wave, pretend everything is amazing, even if you're miserable inside. And here's the thing, you wouldn't be able to refuse, because refusing means disloyalty, and disloyalty means death. So you'd spend your entire life playing a role, pretending to be someone you're not, all for the sake of maintaining the regime's image. And the worst part? The world would see you as complicit. People outside North Korea would look at you and think you're part of the problem, that you support the regime, that you're just as bad as them. But the truth is, you'd be just as trapped as everyone else, maybe even more so. Let's say you realize how bad things are. Let's say you want out. Too bad. There is no out. Defecting from North Korea is nearly impossible. The borders are heavily guarded, there are landmines, barbed wire, armed soldiers. And even if you somehow make it across, the regime will punish your family. Your parents, your siblings, your children, they'll all suffer because of your decision. And as Kim Yo Jong's husband, escaping would be even harder. You'd be under constant surveillance, surrounded by guards, tracked 24/7. You wouldn't be able to move without someone knowing. But let's say you somehow pull off a miracle and escape. What then? You'd spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Because North Korea doesn't forget. They've assassinated defectors in other countries before. They've sent agents across borders to hunt people down. And you wouldn't just be any defector. You'd be the husband of Kim Yo Jong. You'd know state secrets, insider information, details about the regime that they'd kill to keep hidden. So they'd come after you, and they'd never stop. We've talked about the physical dangers, the surveillance, the lack of freedom, but let's talk about something even worse, the psychological torture. Living in constant fear does something to your mind. It breaks you down, little by little, until you're not even yourself anymore. You'd never be able to relax. You'd never feel safe. You'd constantly be second-guessing everything you say, everything you do, wondering if it's going to get you killed. And the isolation would eat away at you. Humans need connection, trust, intimacy. But in North Korea, trust doesn't exist. You can't trust your friends because they might be informants. You can't trust your family because they might report you. You can't even trust your own wife because her loyalty is to the regime first, not to you. So you'd be completely alone, trapped inside your own head, slowly losing your grip on reality. And there's no therapy, no mental health support, no one to talk to. You just have to endure it, day after day, year after year, until either you die or the regime collapses.
Here's the thing. Everything we've talked about isn't speculation. This is how marriages work in North Korea, especially at the elite level. We know that Kim Jong Un's wife, Ri Sol-ju, lives under intense scrutiny. We know that she disappears from public view for months at a time, and we have no idea why. We know that people close to the Kim family have been executed, exiled, or erased from history. And we know that in North Korea, there's no such thing as a normal life. Everything is controlled, monitored, manipulated by the regime. So when we talk about what it would be like to be Kim Yo Jong's husband, we're not making this stuff up. We're looking at how the system actually works and applying it to this specific situation. And the conclusion is clear. It would be a living nightmare. So here's the ultimate question. Why would anyone agree to marry Kim Yo Jong? The answer is simple. You wouldn't have a choice. In North Korea, when the regime tells you to do something, you do it. If they tell you to marry Kim Yo Jong, you say yes. Because saying no isn't an option. Saying no means you're disloyal. And disloyalty means you disappear. So whoever ends up as Kim Yo Jong's husband, he won't be there because he wants to be. He'll be there because he has no other choice. And that's the most terrifying part of all. The complete lack of agency. The total erasure of free will. You'd be a prisoner in your own life, trapped in a system so brutal and oppressive that even thinking about escape could get you killed. That's what it means to marry into the Kim family. That's what it means to be Kim Yo Jong's husband. So let's recap. If you marry Kim Yo Jong, your life is over. Not in a dramatic, poetic way, in a very real, very terrifying way. You'd be chosen by the regime, not by love. You'd be under constant surveillance with zero privacy. You'd have no power, even though you're married to one of the most powerful women in the world. You'd be isolated from everyone you've ever known. Your children would be raised as weapons for the state. You'd live under the constant threat of execution. You'd be used as a propaganda tool. You'd have no way to escape. And the psychological torture would slowly destroy you from the inside out. That's not a marriage, that's a prison sentence. And the scariest part? Someone, somewhere, is going to end up in that position. Maybe they already have, and we just don't know about it yet. Because that's how North Korea works. Everything is secret, everything is hidden. And by the time the world finds out, it's already too late. So yeah, being Kim Yo Jong's husband might sound like an interesting title. But in reality, it's one of the worst fates you could possibly imagine. If this video opened your eyes to how insane life in North Korea really is, hit that subscribe button.